Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our third quarterly webinar of fiscal year 2023. Please note that this webinar is being recorded, and we'll open it up for questions at the end of this presentation. My name is Diana David, and I am one of the two new vendor and small business specialists with the Commodity Procurement Program within Agricultural Marketing Services at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Joining me today is my counterpart, Andrea Lang, along with representatives from one of our many Apex Accelerator centers, formerly known as Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. Today, we have a special guest, Rich Lyles, who is the director of the Northwest Texas Apex Accelerator. He will be presenting on the various services that the Apex Accelerators offer, such as confidential one-on-one advice and guidance on how to navigate the procurement process more confidently and efficiently. Well, Rich, please take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Diana, and I'll be happy. Thank you for inviting me, and welcome everybody. And thanks for taking some time out of your day to be with us. And I will I'm going to pop on my camera really fast so you can kind of see me and say hi, and then I'm going to pop it off to save on the bandwidth a little bit. So, and plus, I've also been told I've got a face for radio. I'll let you think about it for a second and know what I mean. So anyway, I'm Rich Lyles. I'm the PTAC Program Manager, Director for the Northwest Texas Apex Accelerator Centers, formerly known as PTAC, Northwest Texas PTAC, and we let's get going here. Okay, well, we briefly talked about a name change, but I have this slide in all of my presentations. I want everybody to know that we have a new name. We're the Northwest Texas Apex Accelerator Center. Oops, I should have put that as plural because we have more than one office here, so we are plural. We are centers here, and the new name change, we're currently switching over. We're co-branding, so we're both. So if you hear PTAC or you hear Apex Accelerator Centers, just please know that it's one and the same. So what I'd like to do is start off by telling everybody a little bit how much the government buys and why this is such a great market to get into. Last year alone, or at least for the last year that I have data, the federal government spent almost $630 billion on goods and services. That's just the federal government. The state and local governments in the aggregate spent an additional almost $1.8 trillion in acquiring goods and services. So this is a $2.5 trillion market. So it's a very, very lucrative market. It's a huge market. It's probably the world's largest market that is out there. So what I'm going to cover today is I have a number of topics here, and I'm not going to read all through those. We're going to cover everything from contract research to the different certifications to invoicing options, electronic invoicing. We'll touch on each one of these. And my goal here is to really kind of let you know what the Apex Accelerator Centers, the services that we offer and what we can do kind of on a nationwide basis. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that some of us have expertise in certain areas and others have expertise in other areas. We're generalists in that we know all the basic stuff, generally speaking. But in a state that's more heavily into manufacturing, the Apex Accelerator personnel are going to know manufacturing a little bit better than states that, like maybe a state like Nevada, which doesn't have as much manufacturing in it, for example. And I can say that I lived in Nevada for 30 years, and I know there's not a ton of manufacturing in Nevada. So one thing that when you want to start doing business with the government is to make sure to do your research. Although as a whole, the government just about buys everything that you can think of, not every single government agency will purchase all goods and services. They'll have their niches. So just go out and research the agencies that buy the products and the services that your company specializes in, and then come up with a game plan as to how to target those particular individuals so you can maximize your returns on your marketing investments. So there are a number of ways to find federal contracting opportunities out there. The the main way is actually through SAM, the System for Award Management. And I'm going to talk about SAM a little bit more in depth later. We're going to mention it a couple times. I'm going to go into it a little bit more in depth later on in the presentation. But within SAM, there's a contract opportunity section. And you can go in there and you take a look at a number of different requests for different documents. You can have RFPs, which are requests for quotes. You can have sources sought. You can have invitations to bid. You can have a number of different documents, but anything that's over $25,000, the federal government requires that it be publicly advertised. And the avenue for actually doing that years ago when I started was actually a document, a publication called Commerce Business Daily, CBD. Well, that requirement is now satisfied by publishing the opportunity in the contract opportunity section in the System for Award Management. So when you go into SAM, and I'm just showing you a screenshot here, you can go and search contract opportunities. And what I like to do is I like to click on that advanced search button that you see highlighted there just with the yellow arrow. And when you do that, it takes you into a screen that looks like this. I didn't capture the whole screen in the screenshot, but it allows you to go in near the bottom on the left. You can see that there are a number of different ways that you can search. You can search by the federal organization. You can search by dates. You can search by the notice type, invitation to bid, sources sought, request for quote, request for proposal, RFP. That's another particular document. You can search on one or several of these options on the left, and that's not the entire list. It got cut off in the screenshot. There's a lot more ways to search than just the 5 that are up here. But you can go in here and you can actually search for opportunities that match up to what your business does. So subcontracting opportunities. This is the fun one recently. It used to be way back when it used to be on ProNet, and then it was on the general login system. And now as of April 14th, it's on SBA Connect. And you access SBA Connect via a system called Login.gov, which is the same system you use to access the System for Award Management. And once again, we'll cover that a little bit more here in a few slides. So when you go into the system here. Oops, what did I hit? Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so when you go into SBA, this is actually a general login system screenshot. You go into here, you can click on this area up here. Well, I've already clicked on it in purple for SBA Connect, and it will actually take you over to SBA Connect, or you can just go directly over there. So I've got an account set up in here, so you can so you log in. The very first thing, if you haven't been in here before, is you want to click on this access link right here. You click on that, and then what you can do is you can go and you can start setting up your request access in the system. So you can request access to any of the systems through this particular site. So once you get set up, you can go and once you get set up, then you can start looking for subcontracting opportunities through this particular system. So I want to take a quick second and talk a little bit about small business set-asides. So in order to really get into this, you have to kind of understand how the federal government buys. There's basically 3 tiers. The first tier is under $10,000, and that's called the micro purchase threshold. If you're talking about commodities, if it's construction or services, it's a different number. It's lower than that. But the lowest tier is the micro purchase area. Between the top of the micro purchase area and $250,000 is the second tier, really, and it's called the simplified acquisition threshold or simplified acquisition procedures. They use SAP, simplified acquisition procedures, to acquire goods and services between the micro purchase and the $250,000. Anything greater than $250,000 is basically full and open competition. However, what's important about this is that the area under 10,000 is full and open competition to the micro purchases. The simplified acquisition procedures, so for commodities, for example, between $10,000 and 250s, The federal acquisition regulations state that the contract shall be set aside for two or more for small businesses, unless there's a compelling reason where two small businesses may not be able to actually bid on the particular request. So anything greater than 250,000 should be set aside for small businesses if a contracting official knows that two or more small businesses will actually bid on it. So you will see some set asides above 250, but everything between 10,000 and 25,000 or 250,000 should be set aside, generally speaking, for small businesses. Now, the reason I bring this up is on the previous slide, we talked about how everything over 25,000 has to be publicly advertised. So if you're a small business, there's a really good sweet spot between the micro purchase threshold, once again for commodities at $10,000, and the $25,000 non-publicly advertised threshold. So anything in that $15,000 range is, generally speaking, going to be set aside for small businesses. It oftentimes will not be publicly advertised. So a contracting official has to figure out how they're going to go about finding people that can do that particular job or purchase that particular commodity from them. And the way they do that is they'll do some research over in another system called Dynamic Small Business Search, or they can do the research through SAM, the System for Award Management. But generally what it means is that if you're a small business and you're going to bid on something between $10,000 and $25,000, you're probably only bidding against two other small businesses, and they're probably going to oftentimes be in the local market. So it's a range where small businesses can find a lot of success. So that area between $10,000 and $25,000. So just something to keep in mind. So FAR 19201, basically it says the federal government, I'm paraphrase it, says the federal government is going to do their best to do business with small businesses and any of the small businesses that have a special socioeconomic designation like woman-owned, hub-zoned, veteran-owned, etc., service-disabled, veteran-owned, etc. One of the big questions that we get all the time at the Apex Accelerator Center, formerly known as PTAC, is, am I a small business? Well, it's going to depend on your industry, and it's going to depend on whatever the size standard definition is from the SBA. Generally speaking, if you are a manufacturer or your retail or wholesale trade, you are going to be determined whether or not you're a small business by the number of employees that you have. If you're in just about anything else, your small business size status is going to be determined by the average of your last 5 years annual revenue. So you can go to this link that I have on this slide, and it'll take you right over the SBA's website, and then you can download a list that will tell you what the size standard is for your industry. And the industries are based on what's called the NAICS codes, NAICS codes. It stands for North American Industry Classification System, NAICS. It's a 6-digit code. So based on whatever your primary NAICS code is, that's going to determine how you determine whether or not you're a small business. So you go to this link here, you download it either on PDF or Excel format from the SBA's website, and it will list all the NAICS codes numerically. So you find the one that's yours, that's the most pertinent to your business as your primary NAICS code. Then just take a look over in the right-hand column. It'll either be the revenue-based size standard, or it will be a number of employees size standard. If you meet the standard, if you're underneath it, then you're a small business. So, and they can be pretty large too. For example, I believe aircraft components manufacturing and repair, I believe the size standard is 1,750 employees, and that's the largest one that I know of. But you can be a pretty good sized business and still be a small business. Whereas in some of the service commodities, it may be a lot lower threshold, like $11 million a year average, or 13 million, or something like that. Just go to this website, and they'll tell you exactly what they are. So the federal government has some small business socioeconomic certifications. And you may have heard of some of these terms, like being a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, or you may have heard of the 8A program, or more specifically, the 8A Business Development Program, or Hub Zone, or woman-owned small business. You can, if you qualify, you can apply for any one or several. They're not mutually exclusive. You can hold every single one of these certifications if you qualify. You can apply for these socioeconomic certifications through the federal government. And that's something that the APEX accelerators are here to certainly help you with. In our particular accelerator, we will do everything from, we have some businesses that kind of want to take the initiative and do it pretty much all on their own. And we'll have a briefing with them, and we'll give them the basic ins and outs of the program, what to look for when they're going and applying and what to avoid. And then they kind of take it on their own, and if they have any problems, they can come back and we can help them through it. At the other end of the spectrum, we have a number of people who will say, we want a little bit more help than that, and we will actually sit down with them and take them through them step by step by step. Not every Apex accelerator does that at that level. Most do, the majority do, but what we do here in Northwest Texas. So if someone says, I want to apply for the Hub Zone certification, we'll sit down with them, make sure they qualify, do up the preliminary numbers, make sure they're not going to waste a lot of time on an application for something they don't qualify for. And then we'll kind of take it and we'll walk them through it step by step. Okay, that's what we're looking for here. You need to compile this documentation. You scan this. This is the time period they're looking for this information. And we'll walk them through the step, registering in what used to be the general login system, step by step by step, until they hit the submit button and they're good to go. So we and any of the Apex accelerators will certainly help with small business socioeconomic certifications. And okay, so you say, okay, we'll get these certifications. What's the advantage? Well, the advantage is that there are set-asides and goals for each group from year to year. So if you're just a small business, which there really is no formal certification for, if you're whether you're a small business or not is going to be determined by the how you answer a couple of questions when you're registering in the system for award management, or SAM. And that's the system's going to automatically determine whether or not you meet the criteria for a small business. But for the rest of these, the economically disadvantaged, woman-owned small business, woman-owned, the 8A, the service-disabled veteran-owned, and the Hub Zone, there is a formal application process. So you'll have to go through and do that application, but once you do it, and it will take a little while, some of these, it takes a while to get certified, most of them. The advantage is that even if you're just a small business, 23% of all contracting dollars are earmarked or gold for going to small businesses. And that's based on the data that I have, that's about almost $145 billion. So it's a lot of money. The same thing is true of the other ones, with woman-owned and 8A both have a 5% goal, and then service-disabled, veteran-owned, and Hub Zone have a 3% goal each. The 5% goal, you're looking at about $31.5 billion, and the 3% goal, you're looking at just under $19 billion per year. The federal government has some of these, they hit really well every single year, like the 8A, vast majority of agencies hit it. It's pretty easy to use. It's been around for a real long time. Contracting officials are really comfortable in using it. Some of the other ones, service disabled, they've hit a few times. Woman owned, it's been hit a few times, has been met a few times. The Hub Zone, still government wide, there's individual agencies that have hit their Hub Zone goals from year to year. But overall, since its inception in 1997, the Hub Zone program, overall, the federal government has never attained that 3%. They've come pretty close. They came pretty close last year. I think the latest numbers I saw was about 2.65. But the Hub Zone's one they've never quite hit that 3%. That's a lot of money. So so if you qualify for any or all of these, it's something I would certainly encourage you to do and work with your Apex accelerator to look at getting these certifications under your belt. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about General Service Agency, GSA, in their GSA schedule contracts. So there's another question that we get a lot of here. People here, well, they'll go out and they'll make sales calls at a military base or some civilian facility, doesn't really matter. And they're told oftentimes, well, you need to be on a GSA contract. Well, GSA contracts are really great. Not every company, though, should actually pursue one. I think one of the best things that any company could do when looking at thinking about GSA, getting on GSA schedule, is make an appointment and talk with somebody at one of the Apex Accelerator Centers, the one that's in your area, and sit down and talk with one of these folks and see if it makes sense for you, because this is a major undertaking. Now, it can be extremely lucrative if the conditions are right, but what you want to make sure is that you're going to get a good return off your investment if you're going to spend the time to do it. Years ago, when I was in the private sector, I wrote a successful GSA schedule proposal for a company in the industrial sector, and it took a little over a year to put everything together. We had about 110,000 items on schedule because we were dealing in commodities, and we did fairly well with it. We did a little over $2 million a year off the schedule contract, so it worked. It was something that was worth our while. I've seen other companies, though, that spent the year or so to get the GSA schedule and they didn't get much of a return off it. So you want to make sure you're going to get that return before you go down the road. So it's really good to talk with Apex Accelerator counselors about that. They'll kind of help give you an assessment on that. One thing that I want to mention is that years ago, there used to be several GSA schedules. There were there was like 51V, which was the hardware superstore, the one we were under. There was 03 FAC, which was the facilities, miscellaneous facility maintenance type thing, and several other contracts in between, like I think 70 or 71 was IT. Well, about 2 or 3 years ago, they all consolidated into one schedule for GSA. So now they just have different major categories underneath it. There are additional schedules that are not administered by GSA, and they're in the healthcare sector, and they're administered by the VA. So the Veterans Administration still does a number, and I've got some slides on these and show you how they break down in a little bit. But the GSA schedule is what's called the MAS, or multiple award schedule. So what happens is you have one solicitation out and several companies will bid against it, and several companies will be awarded a contract. And for the most part, these schedules and now the major categories, the solicitations, the revisions to the solicitations are open pretty much all the time. I haven't looked through every single schedule, major categories, probably an exception to that somewhere. But generally speaking, they're open pretty much continuously, so people can put, so they can submit an offer underneath these awards pretty much anytime they're ready to go. Without going into all the nitty gritty of it, you can kind of read through the rest of the bullet points here. There's a number of advantages to being on GSA schedule. It makes it easier for your government contractor to purchase the item, commodity or service from your company, because the prices are already everything's kind of been pre-negotiated. So you already have that competition that's in there. The competition's already kind of been satisfied. So there's definitely some advantages to it, but it is a major undertaking. So make sure you talk it over with somebody. And if it's right for you, then hey, go on and go full steam ahead on it. So as far as GSA goes, now there's 12 major categories. You can kind of see what these are. You can see what they are: facilities, human capital, logistics, travel, professional services. The one in the upper right-hand corner, kind of near and dear to me, because that's the industry I'm coming from, industrial products and services. And then beyond the 12 major categories, they're broken down into different subcategories. So when you go into the multiple award schedule site on GSA, you'll see things broken down into these major categories and the subcategories. So you want to see exactly which one is the most pertinent to your company, and then download the full packet, download everything from the README first file to the actual solicitation to the commercial sales practice form. Just get everything down there and just take a look at the whole picture. And then once again, that's something the Apex Accelerator Centers will be happy to go over with you. And there's more subcategories. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the Veterans Administration, the VA has schedules that they administer to, and I listed these out here, and all of these links are live on these VA ones. You can click on them; it'll take you right to those schedules. You can take a look and look at those a little bit further. So this slide here is just some research tools and websites that I use, kind of putting this all together. So we have some live links here, and you can go and peruse those at your leisure. Okay, well, I said we were going to talk a little bit more about SAM, and this is SAM. So let's say you decide that you want to start doing business with the federal government, and also with some local governments too. So for example, here in the state of Texas, a lot of the state municipalities a lot of municipalities within the state of Texas have provisions in their municipal code saying that they cannot do business with a company that is debarred from doing business with the federal government. So as a result, they have to be able to look that information up. And in order to do that, you as a company have to be registered in the system for award management, make sure you're not debarred, suspended, or whatever the case may be. So the municipalities here will require that you have a SAM. The large municipalities here in the state of Texas will require that you have a SAM registration. So you're going to need it for doing business with the federal government. You may need to do it in your state for state and local acquisitions as well. So one of the big things I see out here as far as getting started, step one, is it used to be you needed what was called the DUNS number, which stands for Data Universal Numbering System, from a company called Dun & Bradstreet. And as of April 3rd of last year, so it's been a little over a year now, you no longer need the DUNS number. But the reason I bring it up, and the reason I left these slides in here from older presentations or borrowed them from another older presentation, is is actually because there's a lot of bad information out there on the internet. There's a lot of places that you'll go and ask, do a Google search and ask about, just type in government contracting, getting set up for government contracting, and it pulls up old information that says you need a DUNS number. We no longer need it. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get one, because setting up your credit history with Dun & Bradstreet, that might make a good thing. That might be a really great thing. It's something you have to decide on your own if it's, if it's something that's worth it, time, effort, cost for your company. When you were registering and needed a DUNS number for government contracting registration, you could get it free of charge. I don't know if that's still the case now or if you have to pay for one, but anyway, there's a lot of information out there that says you need a DUNS number. The actual truth of the matter is you don't need it. So that's kind of my point here. So you don't need to go in there. Once again, if you want to get registered with Dun & Bradstreet, I'll never say don't do it, because there's certainly advantages to doing it. But for government contracting, it's not an absolute required step anymore. So step really number two, which is really step number one, is you really need to go in and determine what your NAICS codes are, your North American Industry Classification System codes, 6-digit codes I talked about a few slides ago. This link that I have, the top link here, will take you directly to the Census Bureau website, where they actually keep track and categorize the NAICS codes. So you can click on that and it will take you to a screen where you can start drilling down to see what your actual NAICS codes are. When you go to register in SAM, you need to know what you have to have at least one NAICS code. You need to know what your primary NAICS code is, or else you can't finish the registration process. So if you click on that top link, it's going to take you over to another site right here, and this is the NAICS code site. And you can click on the under reference files in the center there near the bottom. You'll see a little link. It's kind of small, but you see it says 2022 NAICS codes. You can click on that and it'll take you to this screen here. And then you can click on, let's say, your construction company. You can click on the fourth row down, the number 23 is by construction. All construction NAICS code start with 23. You can click on that and then kind of drill down until you get to the 6-digit code that's the most appropriate to you: earthwork, dirt work, plumbing, electrical, general contractor, residential, whatever the case may be. And then you'll know what your primary NAICS code is. So then step 3 is you have to register in SAM, the System for Award Management. And those of you who have been around for quite a while, SAM is the consolidation of an old system called the Central Contractor Registration, or CCR database, and the ORCA system, which it's been a while since the ORCA, Online Representations and Certification Application. That's what ORCA is, Online Representation Certification Application. Well, they merged them, and it became SAM in 2012, and it's still SAM. And one thing I really want to emphasize is SAM registration is 100% free. It does not cost you a penny. There are a ton of companies out there that come out of the woodwork. Oh, for an easy $2,000 or an easy $500 or $1,000 or whatever the cost may be, we can register you in SAM. Don't pay them anything. Just, you can register yourself in SAM. Don't pay a third party to do it. SAM registration is also something, once again, that the Apex Accelerator Centers spend a lot of time on. We actually spend a huge portion of our time helping people register in SAM. So if you have SAM registration issues, or recently, since they switched on April 3rd from the using Dun & Bradstreet database to using the Ernst & Young database, some companies are having quite a bit of difficulty renewing their registration because their current addresses are not showing up in the Ernst & Young database. So there's a couple other things you have to do to be able to show, what your address is and all the information. So if you're having trouble with that, please, please, please reach out to your Apex Accelerator Centers. We'll walk you through it. It won't cost you a penny, and you can get renewed in a relatively efficient time period. So when you first go into SAM, so make sure you go into SAM.gov. Anything else other than SAM.gov, SAM.com, SAM.net, SAM.org, SAM.whatever, it will be a private company that's trying to charge you money. So make sure you go into SAM.gov. You go into SAM.gov, this will take you to the home page. So if you're brand new, click on the Get Started page. If you're renewing, click on the Renew. If you just need to go in and do something, I don't have an arrow by it, but click on the Sign In the upper right-hand corner. When you do that, it's going to take you over to login.gov, and if you already have an account, you can just click on the dark blue button to sign in. If you need to create an account, click on the one just below it and you can create an account. I did not take a screenshot of it, but the next screen and further on would give you a list of different ways you can be notified through login.gov. They have a dual authentication process. The one that I recommend is getting a code sent to your cell phone. Every time you go to log in, there's a dual authentication process. They'll send you a code to type in, and just do that one. It's pretty secure, and it's by far the most convenient. There's some other options too, but that's the one that I recommend, just because you don't have to have a degree in IT to be able to do it. Okay, enough about SAM. Another thing that we get asked about a lot from people come to us with help is with invoicing, and it can be anything from the wide area workflow, WAF, or the invoice processing platform, or various other systems like the ones that the VA uses and some other agencies use. Generally speaking, we get a lot of questions on WAF, wide area workflow, because out of all of them, that one is probably the most complicated, and it's the least user friendly. It's kind of an old legacy system. It looks like screens from the 90s, and so we get a lot of people ask us for help on that one. And quite frankly, the hardest part of it really is actually getting set up in it. At least that's what I think it is. Once you get set up, then you can do. You can kind of work. I just tell people there's a bunch of tabs on it. Just work from left to right. If the tab's not applicable to you, skip it and go to the next one. So, but once again, that's something will help people get set up and registered in wide area workflow and IPP too. And then when it comes to invoicing, if you're having difficulty with, especially the first few times through, we will help you walk through it step by step until you can submit your invoices. And then invoice processing platform is just part of the Bureau of Fiscal Services, part of Department of Treasury. I found IPP is actually a lot more user friendly. It's a little bit less cumbersome than wide area workflow, but it allows you to do quite a few things. And then PIE, the wide area workflow portion of it. I listed this as some basic steps you need to take to get set up to bill in wide area workflow. So you're going to bill in wide area workflow if you're submitting invoices to any agency within the Department of Defense. So Department of Defense uses wide area workflow. I should have mentioned that earlier. But so if you're dealing with the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, you're going to be using wide area workflow, or if you're dealing with like the Defense Logistics Agency or some branch of DoD, you're going to be using WAF. So the ones on this slide that I highlighted in red, if you're a small business, you're probably only going to have to do those steps that are highlighted in red. If you're a larger business, you may have to do all 10. But if you're a small business, at least it streamlines the process a little bit. So I've got a couple of screenshots I want to show you. So if you're getting set up in wide area workflow, you click on the register button here. And once you do that, it'll take you to this screen here, and you got a bunch of stuff, you look at it, you say, okay, yeah, I agree to do that. I'm not going to do anything with the system that I'm not supposed to do. So I agree. And then you click on that, and then you going to get set up as a vendor. You go down to the one where I have the yellow arrow by you, you click on vendor. And then once you do that, this screen will show up right here. And then you start filling in the information on the screen. And without me filling in, I don't have any more screenshots past this one. But then once you fill this out, click on the next button. And as you can see on the left-hand side with the white box inside the blue, this is actually step 2. Actually, this is step 3. You're actually doing your, well, you're doing your authentication. Then you're going to set up a profile. And then you're going to go through each one of these 8 steps on the left, and then you're actually done and set up. Although one thing to keep in mind is when you're setting this up, 9 times out of 10, almost every time you're going to have to call the help desk in Ogden, Utah. And there's an 88, I believe it's an 888 number. It might be an 800, but I think it's 888. Still a toll-free number where you can call to that center out there near Ogden, Utah. And what will happen is you need basically an authorization letter, and they're going to need to get that from you before they get everything all set up in wide area workflow. But so you probably will have to make a phone call. And so with that said, let's take a quick, let's switch gears here quickly and just talk a little bit about state and local. And basically what I just want to say is don't forget about state and local government. In our particular, I almost said PTAC, in our particular Apex Accelerator Center, the vast majority of our clients are actually doing business with state and local governments. We have 4 military bases in our area, but we have a lot of clients that are really small businesses and really kind of want to focus on the independent school districts, like the city of Lubbock or the city of Amarillo or Lubbock County or wherever, Wichita County, which is Wichita Falls. And so the vast majority of our clients are doing the majority of their work with state and local. So don't forget about them, because there's quite a bit of dollars out there. In the aggregate on the whole, federal contracting was about 630 or 40 billion dollars. State and local in the aggregate is about 1.8 billion. So it's a huge market. Let's see, just one thing, I put this in here. One of the items that we have here in the state of Texas is what's called the Centralized Master Bidders List, or CMBL. We help people register in that every single week. And also keep in mind that there are state small business certifications too. So for example, we have every single state in the country has a DBE certification through the Department of Transportation. You have federal rules and guidelines, but the authority for certifying individual companies is delegated to the state Department of Transportation. So in the state of Texas, they actually delegated even further. There are regional certifying authorities. In our particular area, all the certifications are handled through TxDOT. If you're further east, if you're in the Metroplex, Dallas-Fort Worth area, if you're in Houston or you're San Antonio or Austin, you might be a different certifying agency that has a cooperative agreement with Texas Department of Transportation might be the one that's certifying you. I know, for example, in Nevada, NDOT does their certifications, and in Wyoming, WYDOT does all their certifications statewide. So it's just going to depend on the state. But once again, this is another certification that's operated at the state level. State of Texas also has an SBE program. I'm not going to go into that too much. It's probably one of the easiest certifications you'll ever see. And then the state of Texas also has a historically underutilized business program. Now make sure not to confuse that with the federal Hub Zone program. They're 2 separate programs. Same acronym, means the exact same thing, historically underutilized business, but the Texas Hub program is a completely different set of qualifications, different program than the federal than the federal one. And it's going to be determined of the state. Texas has this one essentially, in addition to the Department of Transportation ones. Some states like California will have several, where you have certifications at the the state level, at the county level, at the city level. For example, Los Angeles County Airport Authority, the Airport Authority, and for Los Angeles County has their own set of certifications. So some states have virtually no state set aside certification. So it's really just going to kind of depend. But once again, Apex Accelerator Centers, the people in your home state are going to know exactly what those certifications are, and they're the ones with the expertise to help kind of guide you through the process. One thing that we have, and I believe every Apex Accelerator has across the country, is what's called the bid match service. And here in Northwest Texas, we have ours is free. It's like all of our services. We don't charge anything for our services. And I did put an asterisk up here because some Apex Accelerator Centers do charge a nominal fee for the bid match service. And when I say nominal, a typical fee would be something like $50 a year. The idea is that we're not trying to make money off this, trying to recover the cost of it, because it does cost us a little bit for this particular service per individual company. So anyway, basically what we need is we need to know your, to get this set up, we would need to know your primary NAICS code and any other relevant NAICS codes for your company, some keywords describing the type of business that you're looking to find, the geographic location. In our particular algorithm that we use, we can narrow it down by state basis. So we can do all of Texas and some combination thereof of other states. We can do the whole country. We could do Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, or whatever combination makes sense for your particular company, for your business. And then we just need an email address where we can send the bids. And if you give us that information, we can set up a bid match service. And what will happen is you'd get you get an email once a day, basically saying, based on the criteria you've given us, the following bids are available for you to go take a look at. And you can click on the links and drill down and take a look and see if it's something that you want to bid on or pursue further on an item by item basis. And once again, Northwest Texas, it's free. The majority of the Apex Accelerators are free. There are a few that do charge a few bucks. That's why I did asterisk that. In addition to that, our particular Apex Accelerator, we have a local bid list, and you can find it by going onto our website. A number of the other Apex Accelerators do publish local bid lists either on their website or otherwise, or they'll they'll usually email them out. In the really old days, when I first got into this, we had this brand new technology that came out called the fax machine, and they could fax the stuff to us, and oh boy, you could get it overnight. It was great. But anyway, a lot of them do have a local bid list that they compile. In our particular website, it's an old screenshot of our website. It actually says Apex now instead of PTAC at the top, and but you can still go in on our website, and anybody's welcome to do this. It's a public website, so if you're in the state of Delaware or you're in New Jersey or Washington State or wherever you are, and you want to take a look at stuff here in Texas, I mean, go ahead and click on our weekly bid list. You can download it where this yellow arrow is. You can download it, and it's in PDF format, and you can take a look at it. If there's anything you see you want to bid on, go and submit your bid. So one other thing that we will do is we will help you with a proposal presentation. We'll help you do a number of things. We'll help you just in a basic sense to understand the solicitation, kind of what they're looking for. We'll help you even make a decision to see if the proposed work is right for your company. Make sure you got the right bonding capacity. Make sure that it matches up to, if it's a set aside, make sure you qualify to bid on it. We'll go through the instruction to offer section, take you through it step by step, show you, okay, well, this is what they're looking for. This is what we need. And then once you compile it, the one thing we don't have the manpower capability to do is we actually can't do it for you. We won't do it for you. That's something that you have to do. But once you compile the bid, and we'll give you the direction on how to do it, and we'll show you, okay, this is kind of what they're looking for. This is where you should emphasize, in our opinion. Once you're done, we will be a second set of eyes, and we'll look over the requirement documents, make sure everything's in the correct format, that you haven't missed something, you haven't addressed everything, because ultimately, at the end of the day, we want you to present what in government terms as a responsive and responsible offer. So we don't want you to get disqualified on a technicality. And the story I always tell is I did this great proposal one time and I spent a lot of time on it, and for Clark County, Nevada, which is Las Vegas area. And we got it all in just ahead of the deadline. I'd forgotten to sign it. So we were the apparent low bidder, but it was an unsigned bid, and that was it. No, we did not. We were taken out of consideration for it, and the second lowest responsive bidder actually wound up winning the contract. So it'll be definitely a second set of eyes. Look over your proposal and make sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and if it's not signed, we'll say, hey, don't forget to sign it. The only thing that our particular PTAC won't help on, and I think most Apex accelerators are kind of the same way. We won't actually help you determine the price. And now we can give you some basic background on this is how to set up to figure out your overhead so you can ultimately figure out your pricing. We'll help you with stuff like that, but we won't actually help you determine the pricing on a particular bid. The reason being is there may be 3 or 4 of our clients that are bidding on the same thing, and we're going to most likely see everybody's pricing, kind of know what they're bidding. So as a result, everything that we do is confidential. We don't disclose anything. So we wouldn't be able to help you with the pricing because, we know what everybody's bidding. So it could potentially be an unfair advantage to someone. So we'll help you with everything else. All right, just some quick tips for success, and we're grinding down here. Just be patient. Contact the small business specialists at the military bases or the small business liaison officers, who are the folks at the prime contractors. Do a whole bunch of things, and if it makes sense, work with your local Apex Accelerator Center. And the bottom of, oops, sorry, I was one slide behind. At the bottom of this slide here, I sent a link to the ABTAC organization, the Association of Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. You can go in there, and this will take you to the landing page, and this will give you the location and contact information for your local Apex Accelerator Center, formerly known as PTAC. I'm going to go through these really fast. Got about 4 more slides to go. We're the Northwest Texas Apex Accelerator Center. We are been around. We've actually been around since '87. Program was started in '85. And here's a list of our services. I've already pretty much covered most of these. The only one I didn't really talk about was the very last one I have on this list, which is post-award counseling. We will help you with post-award counseling. Once you've got a contract, make sure you're in compliance and you're filing the necessary paperwork. And, people all the times ask us about certified payroll. So we can give you some information on that sort of stuff, and just make sure that you stay in compliance and perform from a technical side, paperwork, administrative side on your contracts. So without reading through all these bullet points, this is just a quick snapshot, nutshell of the main services provided by the Apex Accelerator Centers. It's not 100% comprehensive. We actually do more than this, but I didn't want to put it in a 6-point font for a slide. So these are the major things that we do. And I think I maybe went a minute and a half over, and that's pretty much all I've got today. And then I just have this one last sign, and yes, that slide blowing off like that is my tribute to the 3 years I lived in, almost 3 years I lived in Wyoming, because the wind blows a lot up there in Casper, Wyoming. So anyway, there's all of our points of contact, and then I am going to click to the last slide, and I'm going to turn it back over to the USDA. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Rich. That was fantastic. I mean, my goodness, you're a wealth of knowledge. So I know that we did ask before or as part of the registration process, we asked if there were any questions that anyone had. So I'm just going to go through some of them. So the first question would be, is it better to partner as an let me see, is it better to partner, go 8A, register? So I guess to be successful with government opportunities, is there a specific socioeconomic category that would be better than another one? Rich, would you say, like, is an 8A better than like a hub zone or something like that?
Well, each one can certainly have its advantages. There is one major advantage of the 8A program. It and its predecessor have been around since the 1970s. So the contracting official community is very comfortable with using the 8A. I know when I did some contracting work at the Bureau of Reclamation years and years ago, at the beginning of my career, early 90s, it's advantageous from the contracting official standpoint to use 8A. It eliminates a lot of the protestable elements when awarding a contract. It's easy to use, and 8A is a really good one, but not everybody qualifies for 8A. The other ones are in their own right are just as good. So my suggestion is, make sure you're the best at what you do, so you have the best proposal that you can into the agency you're trying to do business with. And then when you're marketing your company, just say, oh, and by the way, I'm also 8A certified, and I'm in HubZone, I'm HubZone certified, and I'm a service disabled veteran-owned small business, or whatever the case may be. So 8A is really good, but the other ones are really good in their own right too.
Great, thank you. So for a company that's just beginning government contracting, would you say that contacting their Apex Accelerator is like the first step that they would need to do, or what would you recommend?
That's one of the first steps that I would recommend, because when you're first starting out, sometimes it's easier to start off with state and local governments. There's a little bit less of there are fewer hurdles to get over oftentimes to do business with them. Sometimes getting your foot in the door as a subcontractor is a really good way to go at the federal level, or even at state and local too. But come in and talk to someone at the Apex Accelerator Centers based on where you are in your business development and where you, how much infrastructure you have, what you're ready to do. We can kind of point you in the right direction and kind of get you to take those incremental steps to getting as far as you would like to go.
Great. So when it comes to minority-owned business opportunities, we talked about some of the socioeconomic categories, but would you say there is any opportunities for minority-owned businesses with federal contracting?
There certainly are, but the certification designation of minority-owned business is not one that the federal government uses. The 8A program, the vast majority of companies certified under 8A are minority-owned businesses. There's basically two categories of 8A, two qualifying categories for the what's called the social. For a company to be 8A certified, it has to be economically disadvantaged, has to be socially disadvantaged, and meet another. Yeah. But the social disadvantage breaks down into two categories. You can be what's called in a presumed group. And if you're a presumed group, that would be Native American, African American, Hispanic American, Asian Pacific American, etc. And they're all laid out in statute. The other category is what's called preponderance of the evidence. So if you don't fall into a presumed group, you can show by preponderance of the evidence that you've experienced repeated social discrimination in the United States. And you have to prove it, not beyond a shadow of a doubt, reasonable doubt, but by preponderance of the evidence, as the statute states. So generally speaking, the vast majority of companies in the 8A program are minority-owned businesses. So even though it's not per se a specific program for minority-owned businesses, the 8A program actually facilitates a number of minority-owned businesses doing business with the federal government.
Great, that's really helpful. So we're going to go to some of the questions that we've gotten while the presentation has been going on. Okay. And so one is, where does one find a local Apex Accelerator in their respective areas?
Okay, great question. This slide that's up right now, if you take a look at the website at the very bottom, you can go down there and go to that website. It'll take you to the main page of the ABTAC, the Association of Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. And there's a drop-down list where you can search by the state and area, or there's actually a map of the United States. You go in, it's interactive, you click on your state. And most states just have one Apex Accelerator program. Some states like Texas and New York and some other ones are broken down, and Pennsylvania are broken down into several. So that you can, if you go into those states that have several of them, you can then scroll down and find the one that covers your particular area, and it'll list all the counties that they cover, so you can find your county and you know exactly which one to contact, but right there at that website.
Great. And then someone asked about HubZone price advantage for commodity bids. Now, I think that this is more for, I know that with we have hub zone set asides.
Mhm.
But then there's also something kind of known as like a hub zone price preference.
There is.
So yeah, so I think that's what this person wanted to ask about. If you could explain like maybe hub zone price preferences, and if
Absolutely.
specific NAICS codes matters for certain government bids.
Okay, let me take the first part.
Okay.
As far as the as far as the the price preference, the
Mhm.
bidding preference, it's actually a 10%, but it only pertains to 10% differential is only calculated when you're bidding against other than small business, i.e. a large business. So if you have three companies that bid on a particular solicitation and one of them certified hub zone and it's they bid whatever, and then let's say they bid $1.1 million, and you have a large business that bids $1,050,000, and you have another small business that bids $1,080,000. The 10% bidding preference will be the 10% will be added on to the large business's bid, but it won't be added on. It won't be taken into consideration if you're bidding against a small business. And so yes, there is a 10% bidding preference, but it's only applied towards large businesses. If other small businesses that are non hub zone certified bid on it, the 10% won't affect their bidding price at all or in the evaluation process, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um,
And then the
and then,
second, yeah, go
mhm.
ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just going to ask. Um, and this, just to clarify, this hub zone price preference, this is for, all specific types of products. This isn't just commodities. This could be for anything.
Yes, to my knowledge, there is absolutely no restriction on the type of NAICS codes and industries. It's I'd have to look. I'd have to go back and read the statute on it to be absolutely sure, but I'm pretty sure it's just caught a blank across the board and all covering all NAICS codes and industries.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. And so does it matter um, the specific NAICS code that you use? Like, so I guess, let's say a company is submitting a bid and their NAICS code might be a little different. It might be a different NAICS code than what the contracting officer uses or requested a company use. Is that going to affect a vendor's bid?
Generally speaking, no. For example, the company that I was with in Southern Nevada, in Henderson, Nevada,
Mhm.
we were, and this is so long ago, it was under the old SIC codes before the NAICS were really out. But then whatever the NAICS code is for industrial products and suppliers, wholesale and retail merchants, it would start with a four something. I don't remember what it would be. You can bid on for the most part, you can kind of bid on anything that you want to. For example, we had a request for nuclear grade fasteners. Uh, so we could bid, and we bid on that stuff. So it didn't really matter. Now there may be some other areas where we're dealing with public safety or something along that line where it would matter, but generally speaking, no, it doesn't.
Okay, great, thank you. So we do have a few more questions, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at those once we get offline, and we will go ahead and be able to answer them, get those answers to everyone at a later point. Because we
Okay.
are getting to that 3 o'clock time frame. We want to keep everybody on schedule. So we're going to close the presentation. Once again, please be sure to contact Deanna or myself if you have any other questions or are interested in becoming a vendor with commodity procurement. Also, please feel free to contact, Rich or any of the other Apex accelerators. Contact your local office. Again, you can find that contact information right there on the screen. And so we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and a special thank you to Rich Lyles from the Northwest Texas Apex Accelerator for participating. This has been a great presentation. I've learned something new. I hope you guys have too. And just thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, Rich, and joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. So, and also just to let everyone know, this is a recorded webinar. And so we hope to have this posted and have slides sent out to everybody in the coming weeks. So thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a great day.